Building on that theme of talent development, our first panel session will dive into the essential skills and competencies that are required for the next generation of talent to successfully transition from beyond the bench. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Gilbert Walker, BioHubNet's scientific co-director, and the panelists.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
We have two microphones. It doesn't, the order is not important.
It doesn't matter. Okay, there we go. That's fine.
Please feel free to come down to the front. There's plenty of space. So welcome to the next part of this event, where we're going to focus really on things that are really related to skills development and our interest and efforts to bring this to trainees. And we're really, really lucky to have an amazing panel of people who have a lot of experience in identifying what are important skills in biomanufacturing, providing training on how to present those skills, and also on developing those skills. So my name is Gilbert Walker. I'm a chemist here in the University of Toronto. And I have an interest for long-standing for a couple of decades now in trying to develop this kind of training, from strategic networks to NCE, and now this program. And I have a couple of spin-off companies, and so I'm really aware of the challenges that are faced by students, postdocs, as they try to make these transitions. So it's really, really a great pleasure for me to introduce our panel, although they will actually introduce themselves. We have several people here. To my immediate left is Cynthia Elias, who's a principal senior scientist at Sanofi. We also have Rob Henderson, who is the president and CEO of BioTalent Canada, and Anna McGovern next, who is executive recruiter at McGovern Management Group, and Logan Germain, who's a star HQP at Queen's. So I'd like to ask if they can, sure, take it, why not? And so I want to ask maybe, Cynthia, if you'd be willing to take a moment or two to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me here to participate in this symposium of the BioHubNet. Very happy to be here. And just a few words about myself. I have a PhD in biotechnology, worked many years at the NRC. Actually, Kelly and I were just sharing that a little while ago. And then I transitioned from academia to industry. So something that I would love to share with all the trainees here. And I worked at Sanofi for several years, both in R&D as well as in commercial manufacturing. I was part of the manufacturing of the polio vaccine when it was manufactured here in Toronto. And I was also, I left Sanofi a few years ago, initially to join the BMC, which Kelly was mentioning, to participate in setting up the facility for the COVID vaccine manufacturing that was during the pandemic, and we participated in the readiness of the facility and making the facility operational. Subsequently, I was there for a couple of years at the cell and gene therapy place downtown here in Mars in CCRM, managed their GMP manufacturing operations. And of course, I returned to what was always very close to my heart, and that was vaccines. So I went back to Sanofi, and now I'm part of a global team in drug substance development, working on flu and COVID vaccines again. So very happy to be a part of BioHubNet. I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of Toronto. I participate a lot with the Biozone program and in the chemical engineering department, creating micro-credentials as well. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Rob Henderson, and I'm from BioTalent Canada. For those of you, can I just have a show of hands? How many people have even heard of BioTalent Canada? Can I have that? Oh, very good. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. I have to give my marketing director a raise. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So for those of you who don't know what BioTalent Canada is, we're a national non-for-profit, an independent national non-for-profit. We work through a myriad of partners like Sanofi, like MMGI, like Queens. It's a coincidence that I have my partners up here with me today. And we really work, we're a labor market research organization at our heart. We work to identify and quantify skills gaps across the country in the bioscience industry. And then we work with different entities, economic development departments of municipalities, provincial governments, and federal governments to address those skills gaps. In particular, we've had, many of you may know because we may have placed you in your first co-op job or post-grad job. We've placed over 20,000 students and new graduates in jobs over the last 10 years. We geared up particularly right during COVID, and we really haven't taken our foot off the gas. So we continue to work with a myriad of partners as an independent entity across the country to try to make sure that the Canadian industry now and in the future has access to the most skilled talent available. And I'm very, very encouraged by our keynote speaker this morning. I think it is a very exciting time for the bioscience industry. We're seeing investment at an unprecedented rate, but we have to make sure that we don't treat talent like a field of dreams, as if we start building it, they will just come, because that's not going to be the case. We're going to have to be looking at talent as a fundamental pillar of any economic development strategy. And we're playing a little catch up on that as a country. And I hope we get a chance to chat about that today as well. And I want to thank BioHubNet as well for inviting me here today to chat with all of you. Thanks.
My name is Anna McGovern, and I'm with MMGI. Myself and my partner, Kevin McGuire, who's also here today. We are recruiters, and we work in the area of life sciences. Over the past 20 years, we've worked with companies like medical device companies, big pharma companies, small biotech companies, and most recently, through the pandemic, we were very actively working with some of the manufacturing, so CDMOs, that emerged through that. So it's great to be here today because this is a conversation that I love to have, and that's about job readiness in the life sciences area. And we hope to, or I hope to, contribute as much as I can from a recruiter's perspective as how you can best, get your foot in the door. And we can talk a little bit about the skills involved in that. And I'd love to hear from my fellow panelists as well and learn from them from their perspective. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Logan Germain, and I'm very honored to be here with these impressive panelists. And I think my role here today is to act as the voice of a normal graduate student to kind of reflect the journeys that a lot of us in this room are on, because I am, just alongside all of you, still learning how to prepare myself for industry. And I think I've learned a couple things along the way. So I'm my fourth year PhD candidate at Queen's University. I also did my undergrad in life sciences at Queen's University. And my research focuses on identifying early molecular markers of disease risk in embryonic cells following exposure to environmental pollutants. But beyond my research, I'm also very interested in learning how innovations actually end up on the market. So this is something that I've been actively pursuing learning opportunities in, and it actually led me, alongside a group of other graduate students at Queen's, to found Cubic, which is a student-led talent incubator where we essentially empower students from day one of their research to think entrepreneurially and commercially about their research. And we do this through targeted programming, and we've gained strategic partnerships now with many of the offices at Queen's, including our tech transfer office, our VP of Research's office, Smith Business and Engineering. And it's really given me an incredible opportunity to learn from many of the other students at Queen's about what are the barriers that they face getting into industry and what are their kind of hopes and dreams. So I'm hoping to contribute that angle to the panel today. Thank you.
That's wonderful. I'm going to ask if we're going to have questions that can be made through an electronic means called Slido. And if you use your cell phone to look at this QR code, you can then type questions in that you would like to have asked of the panelists. That's not the only way to ask questions. You can stick up your hand, and I'll do my best to catch that as well. The main point here is to be interactive. Our goal is to really get a chance for questions to be answered. This is a phenomenally skilled panel that has a lot of experience in identifying the skills that are necessary to go forward. And so to sort of, kick that off, what I was interested in from our panel is to ask whether, they could comment on what they think are the top 3 skills and competencies that you look for when you're hiring recent graduates or transitioning researchers in this space, biomanufacturing in life sciences. And I wonder, maybe Anna, since you're a recruiter in this space, you could kick it off.
Yes, so this is something I've thought a lot about as well as a recruiter and also as a career coach. But being here today really reminds me of being back in university myself about 150 years ago, and feeling that anxiety in my first semester, and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by so many smart people. How am I going to do this? I'm destined to fail. And miraculously, and really just through experience over the next few years, and by the last year of being in academia, I really felt like I've got this. I know the system. I feel like I'm really comfortable in this environment. And then you're thrown into the work world, and it's a whole different set of skills. So being in university, what really seems to be the focus is mastering information, focusing on those good grades. And it's really a solo effort, really. And then when you get into the work world, so much is asked of you in terms of being a team player, collaborating, bringing value. So it is a mindset shift, but it's something that can be learned. So the things that I look for in candidates who are making that transition are that, the ability to pivot, the agility. So if you have your mind set on, a career in regulatory, for example, and there are all these positions that are coming up in QC, can you pivot? Can you sort of look at things a little bit differently and maybe get your foot in the door in a different way? So that's one thing I look at, is that agility, but also the ability to collaborate and the willingness to build relationships, I think, is absolutely key. So those would be my top 3.
Thanks, Anna. Don't forget, you can put your own questions up. So use your cell phones to access the QR code so you can access Slido, okay? Oh, it's on this side. Maybe, Cynthia, you could add some more because, you work at a big company there where this is very relevant to the bottom line of your company.
Yes, thank you. And I agree a lot with what Anna was just mentioning, but I think what we are looking for when we are looking at the highly qualified professionals is also their ability, innate ability to be attentive to detail, to make detailed notes, to focus on a problem and their problem-solving ability. So because what sometimes can be your weakness can be your strength. So when you, as Anna mentioned, it's a solo effort in university, but that can be your strength. So you can actually put your head down and look at the problem, investigate it, look for the resources, research it, and solve the problem. But on the flip side of that, in the academia, we are very focused on our discipline, on our area of research. We know exactly what problem we were working on. But it's very important in industry that you become a little bit interdisciplinary and be able to communicate what you are doing to people who are maybe not technical, right? So that ability is something that we look for in candidates. Are you able to communicate effectively what you are doing? Or what the problem is? Can you frame the problem correctly? Because that's half the problem, solving, when you can frame the problem correctly. So can you define the problem to people who may not be from your discipline? So those are some of the other skills that we look, apart from, of course, being collaborative, being able to work cross-functionally, and the ability and the aptitude to learn new things. So you've never learned of QA, QC in university. How do you develop that quality mindset when you go to industry? And apart from the QA, QC, I think what we are really looking for is there is a lot of focus these days on data integrity. So how much awareness there is on data integrity and how well you document what you do, because that is most important in the industry as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that. The questions are coming up in sort of random order on my cell phone. I don't know if they're coming up in order up here, but let's take, I guess I should look here because it seems to be different than my own cell phone. So what is something that helps a new graduate student to stand out to recruiters and companies when they have limited experience? What stands out?
So I can tell you from a little bit of a research perspective, of the skills that we mapped, it's technical and what I'll call essential. We can call them success skills. A lot of people call them soft skills. I don't like that because if you don't have them, they're hard as nails. Okay, like it's true. Of the skills that there was good news and bad news. Of the skills that were required within the industry, many of them were technical skills that can be, I would say, more easily acquired. Some things like GMP, QA, QC, regulatory affairs, et cetera, et cetera. However, the bad news is that the skills that were most required from employers were not the technical skills at all. They were everything that the two of you were talking about. Collaboration, presentation skills, being able to lead a team, communication skills, being able to dumb down, forgive the expression, dumb down a highly technical formula or a highly technical plan into usable bytes. So that's very important. Now, the question is, how can a new grad stand out to the recruiters? Very interesting. I go to a lot of job fairs, and I invariably have somebody coming to talk to me, and they recite the title of their thesis when they tell me what they're looking to do. And I have to calmly and coolly say, nobody's doing that, right? Like, you're not going to be doing that, right? How do you apply what you've learned to the company that you're looking for? How do you tailor what you're looking for, a problem that they're trying to solve? And the best way to do that is to do what you're already good at, which is research. And you'd be surprised how many scientific researchers, if they actually applied 10 to 15% of the research capabilities that they've already learned to their job search, how much better they would be. But a lot of times what they do is they do a hunt and peck and replace the company name with the job title and send out those 100 resumes. And what you need to do is find out 5 or 10 tailored, research them, go onto LinkedIn, be shameless about your job search. Be shameless. Talk to people who are second, third contacts in LinkedIn. Look onto the websites don't hide it. They'll have news releases, they'll have projections with regards to their project research, et cetera, out there. You can research the companies very easily. And guess what? They do love talking about their company. So you can do that so that when you go into creating a letter and a resume and an interview, which are still, unfortunately, the things that we still must depend on with all of that, you will be better prepared, because looking for a job is like running away from a bear. You don't have to be the fastest person in the world. I just have to be faster than the three of you, right? That's really the case in terms of this. So I think that's very important. I will temper this with one other thing. And the biotech industry, and we've done some research on this, is lagging behind other industries in artificial intelligence. This is the most disruptive thing our industry and every other industry is going to see. And even though Canada was an early adopter in terms of an innovator in the area, we are falling way behind in adoption, particularly among small and medium-sized enterprises. So I encourage you to use every bit of experience. If you were a manager at McDonald's during university, absolutely put that on your resume. If you were a camp counselor and got yourself through, these are the kinds of life skills and team skills that companies are looking for. But absolutely spend time researching and getting as much, and push your companies and your universities to bring more artificial intelligence training and understanding, because you are going to need it. It is going to be, even though we are not adopting it as quickly as other industries, it is going to be one of the most critical technical skills that is going to face the industry in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's a great comment. And actually, the AI stuff, there is a great strength of this in Toronto. There is actually also micro-credentialing available through the Acceleration Consortium at the University of Toronto. Feel free to take a look at that as well. That's in addition to the stuff that we're offering. So I guess I'll ask the next question, and maybe Logan, you can give your perspective on this, which is, what core skills do HQP already have that they possess, but they struggle to, explain and bring forward to their presentation?
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so firstly, I want to start off by saying that we should all acknowledge that there is tremendous value in pursuing masters and PhDs. You spend 4 or 5 years really developing a whole toolbox of skills with a level of autonomy and critical thinking that you might not necessarily get if you just started off in an entry-level position in a corporate office. So really, take the time to think through, what are these skills that you've been developing over these years? And then I think the onus is on us to do a better job of translating these skills into industry-facing language. So I have some examples here because I want to make sure I get all my points across. So instead of saying that you ran an experiment or you ran RT-qPCR to investigate X, you also want to frame it that you are managing a project, you're allocating resources amongst other members of your lab, you're creating milestones for your project and a roadmap of how to get there. You're probably developing standard operating practices as you keep really good record keeping of your day-to-day in your lab notebook. You're probably optimizing processes for scale and reproducibility so other lab mates can replicate them as well. These are very critical skills for industry, and so make sure that you're communicating that in a way that these fellow panelists will understand when you're submitting your applications. Instead of saying that you just perform statistical analysis, you also used data to make strategic decisions and pivot your project milestones. And instead of saying that you just supervised students in your lab, you also mentored and developed future talent to carry on the torch in your lab. Again, these are really important things to keep in mind. And I think one important reframing that I personally have had to learn is that you can think of your research project as kind of your own mini startup. You and your project are a startup. And what sorts of problems are you addressing? What are the solutions that you're proposing to the world? Who are the stakeholders who might care about these solutions, and how do you best communicate that? And then finally, you want to think about how to also convince and sell yourself to people and sell the value of your skills and your project. And these are things that we do every day in academia. So yeah, I think it's just about a mindset shift and a language shift.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think another one I might add is a business also looks at things in sort of risks and opportunities. And I think even in your own research projects, it's useful to begin integrating that into your thinking when you decide whether something is really worth digging into as you sort through. Maybe Anna, since you train people in this presentation, in the communication, you could give us a few more tips.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, just thinking about what Logan said, and absolutely, formulating some ideas about how you want to communicate what you can do in the workplace environment. I think that's huge. And we talk a lot about developing a bit of an elevator pitch. Asking yourself, even practicing on and recording yourself on Zoom, perhaps, answering the question, tell me about yourself, which I think so many people feel intimidated by in an interview setting, but really practicing that question and thinking about what can I share that's relevant for this role about myself and about what I'm passionate about, and you can add in a little bit about that as well, but what can I share that's relevant in an elevator pitch? And you can use that in interviews, but you can also use that when you're in a networking event like this, like a learning event, where you're meeting all kinds of people who could be potential employers. So I find that's very helpful to have something a little bit prepared that you can share with others. I have that's one thing, but also just in terms of getting out more from behind the screen and really getting out to events like these is so key. I can share an example with you where about 10 years ago, I was at a life sciences pub night, and I was there because I knew that I think it was the general manager of AstraZeneca actually who was going to be there, and I thought, he's doing a talk on market access. I want to learn more about it, and I'd love to meet this individual. Well, of course, I never got through the lineup to meet him, but ended up chatting with somebody else, and serendipitously, that individual was a recent PhD, oncology focus, and he was actually working on a bit of a startup idea. It was kind of still in the works, and he said, you know what I really want to do, though? I want to be an MSL and work in medical affairs. And I said, well, I'm a recruiter, and I'm actually working on a position in medical affairs for an MSL in oncology. And we had a great chat, and the company that I was working with was looking for somebody with experience, but I was so impressed with this individual that I presented their background, and he ended up getting hired, and 10 years later, he is now the head of oncology medical affairs at Bayer Pharmaceutical. So it pays off to just go out to the pub night, go out to that learning event, attend a conference, walk up to, say, a booth of a company that you're interested in working for, start a conversation, tell me a little bit about your product. Inevitably, they'll turn to you and say, well, tell me about why you're here, and that gives you an opportunity to share your elevator pitch. So just something that you can think about formulating over the next little while.
Do you think there's maybe an opportunity here? I mean, look around the room, right? We have 250, I don't know, on the order of, well, more than 200 people, if my count is roughly correct, in the room. And you're not supposed to be able to count above 6, so if I get to 200, that's probably not a good guesstimate. But look around the room. Maybe it could even be possible for you to, as a student or postdoc, to mentally prepare a pitch, a 1-minute pitch, and turn to the person on your left or your right and try it. I think this is a really key skill. And you have a whole bunch of people who are interested in helping you to develop those skills. I think I'll just ask Cynthia, you want to add a little bit of comment, and then we'll go to a couple of questions.
Yeah, I would just like to add something to what Logan and Anna have referred to. And as Logan put it, you have to think of what you have and how you translate those skills. But I would just like to add a more practical example of that, in the sense, if you go to an interview and you're asked about those skills, think of it using the STAR principle. And what that means is you think of the situation which would relate to that, either doing research or analyzing your data or using statistical approach. Describe the situation, describe what your task was, what action you took, what was the result, and what was the lesson learned. So when you present in an interview using that model, I think it always helps the candidate to stand out, because the interviewer thinks that you didn't just use words to say, I did data mining and I did statistical analysis, but you were able to present a concrete example of what you did, and you can actually relate what you are saying to the situation at hand. So that ability to translate it and present that in an interview is something very often interviewers are looking at, especially in the world I come from, right? Even the hiring managers are trained to actually look for this in candidates. So it's a learning for all of us, right? The interviewees are also learning it, and the people interviewing as hiring managers. This is something we use so that, every interview is a subjective process, but we would like it to be as objective, as fair to candidates as possible. So these are some of the tools we employ to see whether people can present it in this format. And maybe you don't call it as a star, but you describe the situation like that, and the interviewer knows that the person is able to relate the skill he says he has or the competency he has to a real life situation. So that is something.
Yeah, those are important points. Thank you. Rob,
May I
would you like to add
just a
something?
moment? Hit the nail on the head. Something else that I find in interviews, I've interviewed hundreds of people, and the biggest wasted opportunity that I ever see in an interview, and it is the best opportunity for interviewees to stand out, is when I ask, do you have any questions for me? And this is the biggest waste of an opportunity that I've ever seen. If you have done your research, if you have come up, you can do exactly what Cynthia was saying and phrase your experience, like Logan was talking about, in a way that I can understand and in a way that it applies to my company for a problem that you can solve for me. I have hired people, this is not a word of a lie, simply because of that 5-minute section. That is a fantastic way, and I'm telling you, it's 10% of the interviewees take full advantage of it. And it is to me, it's the most important part of the interview.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. When you go to the interview at the company and you meet with each person, ask each person a question that relates to what they were discussing with you. Then, when that group of people gets together to decide, are we going to hire Josephine? What do you think? They will be able to say, well, she asked this question that was a really great question about our process. I think she's really interested in that. And then, she's also interested in, no, it's GMP processing. That's what she's interested in. And what you get is a dynamic in the group of people who are doing hiring, which is what you want to create. Okay, so this is really important. Communicate your enthusiasm, communicate your attention. And this is interesting. If I look at the top question up here, and it says we're focusing on current trainees, which is true. That's really what we have been talking about. So the question is a little bit different now. Let's imagine that we're talking about somebody who's maybe been in the workplace for a while. How might one modify that conversation? Anyone want to take?
Okay. Help graduates from a couple of years ago want to get their foot in the door. First thing is you have to take a little look-see. If you're trying to get the foot in the door, is why are you having a problem getting foot in the door? What is it that you are lacking either in your experience or in your networking that is required? There's a question, I'm going to combine it over here too, is how do you ask for a referral or as a reference? What you should be asking for is introductions to me in terms of being able to find people, because this is a personal level. These are psychological endeavors, finding a job and trying to convince someone with an interview and otherwise. There are lots of, so if you take a look at your resume afterwards, what are you lacking? Are you lacking some of the skills we talked about here? Collaboration skills, networking skills, partnership, communication skills. You have to get a good mirror. And I would say don't only have yourself look at yourself. Ask people that are in positions that love you, but can be objective about you. And I think that's really important. And then you have to go out and find out. There are lots of resources out there. Like if you're talking about training and you're talking about, BioTalent Canada has tons of resources that are freely available. There are all sorts of things. There's micro-credentialing courses. There's also, but you have to take a good look at what you are lacking, not what you want to do. Because there are a lot of times that new grads or grads that have been out there for a year or two have a lot of technical skills, but what they're lacking is some of the soft skills that we were talking about and essential skills. But you have to be honest with yourself of exactly what you're taking a look at. So take a look at, do your research on LinkedIn, see what the skills are that are really in demand right now, and ask some very honest people around you, what do they think you need to improve?
Great. Another question that's up here, if I can paraphrase it, is what questions should one expect from an interviewer? Anna, do you want to take a stab at that?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what you can prepare for in an interview in terms of questions. I know that Cynthia mentioned the STAR technique, using examples of what you've done to demonstrate, you know, how you can be of benefit to this company. So in providing those examples, I think the most important thing to think about is the end result, actually. So we've got the STAR technique, the situation, the task at hand, your approach, and then the end result. You want to have examples of 3 of your main strengths that lend well to the job at hand. You want to have examples of 3 accomplishments. Okay, these are all practiced examples. You can, again, use a recording on Zoom to see how you're doing and if you're hitting all the points in, you know, a 2 to 3 minute window. You want to have an example of dealing with a conflict, which again ended up in a positive end result. You want to have an example of working on a team as a participant, as well as working as well as leading a team. And this can be, you know, as Logan was saying, in an academic setting, but you want to have those examples prepared. You don't want to be caught kind of flat-footed. And then finally, you want to have some ideas of questions like we were talking about at the very end of the interview that could relate well to, you know, what's been shared with you or what you found on the website. And most importantly, at the end of the interview, you want to let them know where you stand. And so many people let go of that opportunity as well. They walk out without sharing their interest in the role. So that is key. When I was a junior recruiter, I used to get a call from candidates saying, "Oh my gosh, Anna, this position is perfect for me. I can't believe it. It's like such a great fit, and I think I did really well in the interview." And then I'd follow up with the client or with the company, and they would say, "You know what? That went really well, but we're not sure of one thing. We don't know if they really want the job." It's like, yikes. That is absolutely key. You've got to let them know where you stand.
Cynthia?
So maybe those were all excellent points. I think, you know, I wish we knew some of these things when we looked for jobs 150 years ago, but we could have gone somewhere, exactly. But having said that, exactly to the point, one of the questions that you're often asked, especially when you are, you know, just starting your career or, you know, in the earlier stages, is to outline your strengths, but to also highlight, and some people will phrase it as, what's your strength and your weaknesses? What I like to phrase it as usually is, what's your strength and what's your area of development? So what do you see that you want to learn? Because I don't think, you know, weakness is, not only does it have a negative connotation, I don't think that's the intent of the question. The intent of the question is for, sometimes a hiring manager also needs to know what development plan he can put in place for this person. What would this person like to do in 3 years, in 5 years? You know, where's this person trying to go? So I think it's very important that you think of that question, because just as the question of, you know, of asking a question, this is an opportunity as well that can help you really stand out, because you have a clear idea of what you want to develop in. So it could be you are a scientist, you want to develop business skills, you want to develop financial skills, and those are all good things. So I think you want to think about the areas that you can focus on for future development as well in an interview. That is helpful for yourself as well as the hiring manager, actually.
I wanted to ask one question of Rob. So Rob, BioTalent Canada has developed a set of skills that can be combined in different ways to address different job positions. Can you tell us a little bit about how those things are evaluated, how you think the skill quality should be evaluated, and then how provision of micro-credentials may or may not help in that journey. Could you comment on that?
Sure. One of the things about the bioscience industry that everybody probably knows is that everything that we create is highly regulated, but the jobs are not. Meaning that, unless you're a physician or a pharmacist or a nurse, we don't have a regulatory board for the scientists and for the technical people that did. So it's very competency-based, skills-based. And it's difficult sometimes to be able to sit there going, well, I have these 20 skills, do they fit within a certain job description? So a couple of things that we've done. We've created 55 different national occupational standards across Canada for the most popular job research technical positions within Canada's bioscience industry. And to your point, Gilbert, what we've been able to do is we validated those skills. We didn't just sit there with a drawing board in a lab or in a classroom and do that. We actually gathered upwards of 24 per national occupational standard to validate from real world experience, people who are actually either occupying those positions or managing those positions in different Canadian bioscience companies across Canada, and validating those through focus groups. So the national occupational standards we have there are not theoretical, they are actually practical. So, and they are sets of different skills that are there. Along with that, we have a program called the BioSkills Recognition Program, which is a program that you can answer, which actually takes those national occupational standards. We will give your resume, and you can actually plug it into our online tool. We give it to a waiting professional who is in the industry or who has occupied that job in the industry. They validate and look at your sets of skills as per your resume or CV, and see if they match up against the national occupational profile. If they do, you are deemed bio-ready for that, which is our little moniker, bio-ready for that. Now, this is accessed a great deal by foreign professionals, internationally educated professionals that come into Canada. Why? Because their biggest hurdle is Canadian-based industry experience. A lot of the times, there's a lot of bias. Don't forget that when you're dealing with SMEs, 70% of all of the companies in Canada have no human resource expertise or capacity whatsoever, okay? So you got scientists that are doing HR. So you gotta make it easy for them because they ain't been trained in this, okay? It's a bit like getting a plumber to do your taxes, okay? So you've got to make it easy for them. So the easier that you can get is that, oh, I've been industry recognized, clunk, that I can do this job as a research associate or whatever, or a project manager. It makes it easy. Oh, takes the risks, de-risks out of that. So I would very much encourage you to take a look and see if there's other industry validations. Now, micro-credentials, relatively new, and they're coming in there. I wish we could find different terminology. Because whenever we say micro-credential, unless you're part of the subculture that's in HR, everybody goes, what are you talking about? It's essentially an industry validation for a very, very limited skill or competency. Okay, and some of these can be some things you're going to get up in GMP, you're going to be getting some other QA, QC, and all of these things. They're offered often by academia and independent organizations that are trying to do it. You will take a little look-see. You should. It is absolutely worthwhile for you to take a look at if the competency or the skill is required in either the standard that you're looking for or the job descriptions that you're reading online. Certainly, again, it's like running away from a bear, right? So anything that gets your resume to the top of the stack is worthwhile in doing it. But there are lots of them. So you do have to sift through. There are lots of micro-credentials now available in Canada. So I would not say take 100 of them. Okay, like that's because they'll be a little expensive and it's going to be hard to sift through. But certainly the ones that you're relevant, that you think are being most commonly requested as a skill or a competency for the field that you're interested in. One last thing, Gilbert, I'll be quiet. Don't forget you're interviewing the company as well. Okay, there are companies around here, and in Canada, we're in a different industry where things like diversity, inclusion, mentorship, glass ceilings, all of these things still exist in SMEs. So make sure when you ask even some of the questions, if you're not sure that this company is worthy of you, ask a good pertinent question. How many people around here look like me? Right? I took a look on your thing. Seriously though, like, I mean, I've taken a look at, is there, your senior executives, there seems to be a lot of females on the senior executive. How do you groom that kind of talent? This is the kind of stuff that you want to do because you don't want to get into a good job in a bad company, okay? Because that can really, really stifle your career. Okay? So, because we're not just building a company, we're not just building an industry, we're building a country. And this has to be part of it. And the bioeconomy has to be part of it. So make sure that those values, the company values, reflect yours.
I'm going to give the last word to Logan. We're running a little bit late. So, I'm sorry about that, but I'm very happy because she has the nearest experience to provide for us here.
What are you implying?
I'll let you figure it out.
I guess to address the question about like what else can we be doing to develop ourselves as we kind of mature as graduate students, I think that it's important to think about ourselves as a portfolio of experiences. And our technical knowledge and our domain-specific research is obviously one facet of that portfolio, but there's also opportunities to develop your leadership skills, your communication skills, your business acumen, et cetera. And so I think basically by seeking out opportunities to build this personal portfolio, whether that be through, there's so many options. Like you could write a review article on an area that you're interested in, kind of in your field that's not directly related to your research. You could put together simple pitch decks on ideas that you have for potential ventures. You could create like one-page market summaries of, again, a field that you're interested in. And this is all stuff that you could potentially create a personal website for. You could post it on your LinkedIn. And I think the point isn't necessarily that a ton of people are ever going to see these, but it's more so that each iteration of going through this, you're upskilling yourself to be more competent and ready to pursue industry-based jobs. I think also when you're a graduate student, the world really is an oyster. There are so many programs that are available to you outside of just research, like, as was mentioned, micro-credential programs, but also other things that come to mind is everything that happened earlier this week, all those workshop series that were available to us. Summer school programs. For example, there was a few students and I in my lab group, we applied to a summer school program at the University of Barcelona to learn about European market access and drug development. And we were funded to go attend this incredible week-long summer school opportunity. There's also student-led accelerator programs just to explore ideas you might have. There's student-led case competitions where you can gain sort of like real-world hands-on experience working with company problems and coming up with solutions. And then finally, I think the last thing that's important is to practice your industry fluency in sort of lower stakes settings. So obviously we know how important networking and coffee chats are. And one single networking event isn't going to change your career path, but 50 of them, you're gonna really start to get comfortable and you're gonna start to build pattern recognition about what is it that people are saying, what's the terminology that they're using, what are the trends, who's hiring, who works where. This is all really critical to build your mental map of an industry. So when it comes time to apply, you already kind of know where to go and where to look for those foot in the door opportunities. That's all I have to say.
Great advice. Thank you, Logan, very greatly. And I think, you want to put together this skill set for yourself to present, right? You're looking for the right job for you. You want to match up with the right job, right? It's not about whether there's 1,000 jobs available or whether there's 100 jobs available and what you're interested in. It's that you find the one that you want, you get prepared for that interview, go for it, and you get it. Being prepared is absolutely essential, and that will raise you above most people. One quick comment. Your CV may well be read by AI in a big company. Remember that when you put it together, this means that keywords have to jump out that will resonate from your resume, your CV, with what they're looking for. So think carefully about how to prepare this document. So please join me in thanking our amazing panel. These are really great guys. So thanks very much, and I'm sure you'll be happy to answer questions if people ask up later on.
Sure, we'll do that. Thank you. Wish everybody here all the very best in your career.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks very much.
All right, so thanks to Gilbert and the panelists for those valuable insight and sharing about some of the skills that you want to hone on as if you're the HQP right now trying to transition out of the academia. I do want to make a quick note that the BioReady certificate program that Rob mentioned is the certificate program that are currently available on our online training platform, so you can access those courses as well. And also we talked quite a bit about the resume building, and that will be part of one of the breakout session, the professional development workshop